Hiya, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we have another Christmas batch make. Today's project is going to be making Christmas tags. However, for me personally, I don't really have a use for those. I don't really use Christmas tags on presents, but I thought it would be fun to show you how I made those with the shaker fuse tool. But I then turned those tags into cards. So if, like me, you don't really into the tags thing, but you kind of like that idea of that, I thought it was a good way to show you how to make use of the tags. And of course, it could be that you have tags that you like that aren't these that we're making here, but that you just have that you've purchased or whatever. And so it's just showing you a way of making those into cards as well. So don't just think this is only about the fuse tool shaker tags. This obviously could be easily changed up using any tag that you might have. Okay, so enough chatter, let's get crafting. So the first thing that I did was I went and picked a load of different card bases. So I had some little square ones, some small baby cards, some A6 cards. I didn't go too big because these are tags that I'm going to convert into cards. I then picked out a load of Christmas papers and stuff that I like the look of, and then finally I just picked out a load of different shaped dies. Not too complicated because you're going to need to use your fuse tool around these to make the shapes for the shaker card, but you could, like circles and hexagons and flags, etc., things like that, squares obviously. So I picked a number of different ones, and then I die cut out of my paper just randomly the shapes, and in order to be sure that everything fitted nicely, what I did was I chose a paper that went with my card base, and then I took a shape of the die, and then I made sure that the die fitted on the front of the card, and then I die cut that shape from my paper. So then, as you saw, there was a big pile of cards there with all the little card bases, their envelopes, and the actual die cuts that we'd done out of the papers. The next thing that I did with the die cutting machine is I took some of these gorgeous snowflakes. I wasn't sure how much I was going to use these, but I just wanted to add some extra decoration, and I found this gorgeous sparkly white paper that just seemed perfect for it. So I literally just took all the dies from that set and I die cut them out several times just to get a nice selection. And then finally, with the die cutting, I took these gorgeous words from Tim Holtz, the holiday words, and some of the papers that we'd used already, and just die cut out some of the words. So for today's shaker, as I said, we're using the fuse tool, which basically takes these sheets of plastic and seals it together to create like a wallet, a little pocket, and to which you add your shaker elements. So you can buy specific little plastic pits that go with your fuse tool. However, I just use these plastic pockets that you get to put paper in, and I just cut the edge off there, and then I'm going to make use of those. So the first card I've got here, I showed you there, I've taken the green sparkly card base. I've got this that I die cut from one of the pieces of paper. You didn't see that, I didn't show you everything I die cut. I've popped it into the little wallet. You'll notice I haven't put it to the edge because otherwise you don't get the same kind of edging. If you put it to where it's already sealed, it kind of looks different. And then I've put down my heat resistant mat, and then I'm taking my fuse tool and I'm going along the edges. Now, two things here I will say is that I forgot that I had a ruler thing that is used with the fuse tool, so you'll see me use that later. I'm going to demonstrate that for you. And secondly, I'm going a little bit slow. You need to have a reasonable speed on, and you'll see that when I do the next one. It's been a while since I've used the fuse tool, and what happens is later on this one I actually go through the plastic because the heat is too strong when you go too slow, and it melts it to the point that you create a hole. So you need to have enough speed that it doesn't do that, but obviously not so much speed that you don't melt it at all. Now, don't forget you need to put your shaker elements in. So on your initial run of your fuse tool, only do 3 sides, and then what I'm doing is I'm cutting around it. And again, this was slightly another error that I made on this one, is I cut it too tight to the fused part. I need just a smidge, like even just a millimetre between that and the fused element, just to stop or to help prevent it pulling apart. Now, it didn't on the edges that I've cut so far, but you'll see later I did have to do a correction. And you can fix most of these things. It's not a big deal. Now, I've got a load of different coloured sequins. I got these from a great place that you can buy all these sequins kind of individually, but there are lots of places that you can get sequins. But as always, what I'll do is I'll put links to all the products, including the sequins, in the blog post for you. At the bottom you'll see there's like a whole list of products used, and in that little sort of thumbnail for each product you'll see little icons for the shops themselves, and you can click on the one you want and go there, and it will take you to what that product is. So as you saw, I just added the sequins in, and now I'm just sealing that. Now again, look, you see I went back and forth over the same area. This is just a big no-no, and I'm going so slow, and what you'll see happens is that I basically have created a hole in the top there, and I had two choices here. I could either just go throw it away, or I could make some sort of correction. And at this point I hadn't realized I'd gone through completely and that the top wasn't sealed. Once I did, I thought, well, we're going to be making these into tags, so let's put like a top on the tag, and it will look kind of funky, I think, if we get it right. So I just used a bit of washi tape in a great sort of Christmas red that went really well with our paper there, and again I just did half on one side, half on the other, folded it over, and then just ripped the excess off, and then cut the little excess there to the shape, because what you will have seen is the corners are rounded, and I did go round those corners when I did the fuse tool as well. You do really need to do that, only because otherwise the sequins kind of get caught in those corners and they just look really strange, I think. So that's that one done and kind of rescued. So now I'm going to show you how I should have done it once, because I realised what I did wrong. I kind of remembered what I should be doing. So this is perhaps a better example, but I wanted to leave in that one that had not gone wrong. Well, I guess it did go wrong, but I wanted to leave it in so I could show you what was wrong and what I did wrong, because it's interesting to see what mistakes can be made, and you might be doing these things and wondering, why is it not working for me? And also to show you that you can correct it. You don't necessarily need to throw it away. So you can see here I've used the ruler, I've lined up that edge to the edge of the piece of paper and then slightly over, so I could just see the paper on the left hand side of that little hole that's the line, and then I use that, and you can see I can, because the ruler's there as well, you can get a lot better speed on, and that it's fine to fuse right up to the edge of the paper. The problem is, one, if you go too slow, it creates that melting point that creates a hole, but two, when you cut too close to that fused area, the plastic just hasn't got anything to protect it from pulling apart. So what I've done here is I'm using my trimmer as a guide to make sure that I've just got a mil or two on the edge of the plastic, so that when I cut it off it's going to be all even as well, and it's got that little bit of extra edge just to give it some protection from pulling apart. And it's not so much that it looks horrible, but just enough to help it. And there again, I've left the top. Obviously this one's double-sided paper, which is great if you're using them for tags. And then I'm adding my sequins. Now you'll see here that several times I'm trying to keep the pocket open. It is quite fiddly. It does want to just pop back all the time, and you want to make sure that the sequins go down the front, unless of course you want it on both sides if you're using a tag, but I didn't want it on both sides even if I was using a tag. So what I did in the end was stuff a finger down there to try and keep it open, and obviously I'm using a little spoon that I've got, which really does help. And then I decided that it's got a little bit of the teal in there, and so I added that in. What I would say is, you see here I'm shaking it up. It's quite useful to do that. Obviously don't shake it so hard card that they all pop out the top, like I did do later on. I don't know if I've kept that completely in because but yeah, I shook half of them out the top, which was slightly annoying, but it does help to shake them up, because like here I shook them up and I thought it would be great, but somehow something was missing, and then I added that silver, just a little bit of silver, and it just seemed to lift it up and finish it off really nicely. And if I hadn't have shaken that up, I wouldn't have seen how the mix came together. Also, when you seal your fuse pocket, it is a little tighter than if you were doing a normal shaker card, which obviously has the height of the foam, which of course gives your shaker elements just a little more movement space. So now I just wanted to show you one more thing, which was a more difficult shape to go round with your fuse tool, which is a circle in this instance. So as you can see, what I did was I've used my die as a guide. Now it does mean that it is a slightly bigger gap between your paper and the fuse tool line, but it does mean that you can whip around, so you're not going to get that kind of melting that you would get normally, and it just helps, I think, for that. And you know, if you've got different types of dies, you might be able to go bigger and go on the inside of the die, and it might be a bit closer. You just have to play around with it. For me, because of the die that I had there, I didn't have one that would fit it more closely, but I don't think it's a big deal. I think it worked out fine, and once you put your shaker elements in, it wasn't a problem. And for the top part, all I did was just after I've added my sequins, obviously, is I just went round with my fuse tool and just sealed that up. I didn't go back with the die there because it was pretty easy to do that last little bit freehand, and as you can see, I just sealed that up nice and quick. And then to finish off, I just cut that top excess off with my scissors. So now we've made all our shaker pouches, we need to put our cards together. If you're going to do cards, obviously if you're not, then you just want to finalize the tags. So the first thing I want to do is create, on some of them I want to make them really tag like by adding a eyelet to the top with, and then putting either some baker's twine or some ribbon through the top there as well to give it that real tag like feel. So I'm just using my little memory keeper tool there, punch the hole, and then you go to the other section and you put the bit with the pokey bit through the top of your eyelet, and then the other part that's sort of almost flat, it's just got like a little bump, goes underneath your eyelet, and then when you squeeze it together, it will squish the back of the eyelet down and create it to be sort of finished and smooth on the back. Just make sure it is smooth on the back if you aren't going to use it as a tag, because you don't want to catch it on any fingers and things, but otherwise if it's on a card it's less important. So I've created my eyelet here, and then I'm taking some baker's twine, I'm just double threading it through to create a loop, lining those two up so the ends match, and then popping that through. Now at the moment it's sort of the loops at the top, so I'm just pulling that loop down. If you're using it again as a tag, then you would want that loop at the top, but well, you might do anyway, I'm assuming you would, but if you're creating a bow like I am, then it is easier to put your bow when it's got the loop further down. So all I'm doing there is doing my little bow. I held it in the center and then pulled the little tails to shorten the bow. By holding it in the center, you're stopping the center knot getting looser and looser. It just makes it easier. And then I've cut the tails to length, added some wet glue. Now you want some really strong wet glue for this. Not only am I sticking it onto a glitter card, which requires wet glue, but we've basically got plastic here, so it's really got, you know, highly shiny surface, so you really need a good strong glue. And then just as a final thing, because I'm doing this as a card rather than a tag, I'm adding a sentiment. But of course if you were doing it as a tag, you could obviously move that sentiment over so that it was right into the tag. Now this one I created the tag in the same way, but I just stuck it straight down, just very simple. Now for this little baby card, and it's really tiny, as you can see, really cute, I decided that it would be fun to put the eyelet through the card as well. And if you wanted to, you could actually kind of have a little hidey bit behind with the message or something behind your little tag there that they have to sort of swing the tag to see. I decided not to do that today. I just went for the same thing of putting my baker's twine through the top and creating my bow, cutting off the ends to the right length. And then I had some of these lovely peel off stickers. This has got like a holographic kind of green to the center of it with like a gold edging to it, and it's really, really nice, and it went really well with the colors of this particular shaker, and it just added that sentiment to it. It wasn't too over the top, but it was just really cool. So then this one was our really nice shape. I don't think you saw me make this in the shaker cards, because obviously the shaker pockets, because I didn't show you every pocket that I did. I am going to show you every card now as we put it together, so that you can actually see all the cards in the bulk make. But this was using the Sue Wilson Flags dies, and you can see it came out really well, and it was a good shape actually to go around with your fuse tool. It was very easy to do, and I think it looked really effective as a tag or on the front of the card. And then these are those lovely Tim Holtz dies that we die cut the sentiments from the paper that matches the paper that's inside our little flag there. But I felt that it still needed something, and this is why I did the snowflakes, because it just allowed me to add something when it felt like it needs a little something. So that's what I did for that one. And then on this one we just went really simple again. We've just got a square card, but we've got this really fun shape. You could make it more tag-like by adding an eyelet if you wanted to, but I went really simple by just putting a sentiment on it. And this one again, just a square card, quite simple again, just sticking the shaker pocket down again if you want to, either as a card or if you're going to use it as a tag. You obviously would want to add your eyelets, but there for that one I used some more of the Tim Holtz sentiments. That wouldn't work if you were doing it as a tag, because they were too big for that on its own. And then we have another little wee one here, and we just used a little oval shape here. Again, this one I did make into a tag by using an eyelet. I completely wasted my time doing that, because having put the eyelet in, I completely covered it, because I made myself a little bow using some American Crafts grosgrain ribbon. And of course it completely covers the eyelet. Obviously, again, if you're using it as a tag rather than putting it on the front of the card, then yeah, you want that. And what I would suggest if you're doing ribbon like this, that if you're using it as a tag, put your bow on the front, but before you put the bow on the front, put some baker's twine through your eyelet so that you can use that for hanging, and then use your bow, because it's a lot easier to get it neat than if you use all ribbon. Now for this one I just had a simple square. I just thought it was really sweet. I just wanted to show off the lovely paper, and I fiddled around with this ribbon a little bit. The first time I did it, I didn't like how I did it, and so then I redid it in this way, and I thought it looked better. And again, just very simple. The stickers were from the same paper pack, so I just added that at the bottom to create the word snow. Really, really simple. I was trying to keep these cards simple to really emphasize the shaker elements, and also really so that you could see how you can use them as tags, because that was the initial plan. But as I say, I really didn't need them as tags, so I just thought, right, let's do it this way. But I wanted to be able to let you see that they were still tags if you wanted them to be. And obviously if these are too big for you for tags, then take them down a notch and use a different shape die. Now this one is, I just love that pattern paper there, and again very simple, just stuck it down. Now this one is the final one, and again I was just going pretty simple. I'm just going to stick this shaker pocket to the front, but I thought we'd just add a little extra element to the front by taking this washi tape and just putting it top and bottom, and then cutting the excess off with my scissors, making sure it's really stuck down on that glitter card as well, by the way, because it can be a pain to stay stuck if you're not careful. So there's cut the excess off. I stuck both parts down first and then cut. It's just a speed thing, especially if you're doing lots of cards that are the same, so you're putting lots of washi tape on, then obviously that's a lot quicker to do. And then I just took this really nice shape from, I think it's a Spellbinders one, but as always I will list them and if possible put links to them on the blog post. So if you haven't been across to my blog post before, just go to the link in the paragraph below this video, it will take you straight there. Okay, so that is it. Now obviously you can see the blue one there on the left hand side is actually the wrong way around. I didn't realise until after, but anyway, that is bizarrely 11 cards. I don't quite know how I ended up with 11. I was aiming for 12 or 10, I can't remember. I think it was 10 I was aiming for, but somehow I ended up with 11. But anyway, you can see how these could be tags or cards, and I think both work really well. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you found it fun and helpful, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.